welcome to the show and episode 138. Thank you all for joining us. And let's jump right into our next wonderful, beautiful, amazing, extraordinary guest. Alright guys, back again. If I sound a little off today, it's because I'm still kind of waking up this morning. It's here in Pennsylvania. It's somewhere like around 10:30 a.m. And so me and one of my new friends who gotten to know each other a little bit outside the show and got to hear her crazy story, at least some of it. I thought it was a very pivotal adventure to have on here because I always like to show you the juxtaposition of how life can start off really wrong and you can turn it around somehow, even if it doesn't seem that way. So I'll welcome our next guest. You want to introduce yourself and tell us a little about yourself?
Good morning, TJ. Thank you. Yes, my name is Christine. Last name is Malik. I am what I call a women's confidence coach. And I do this through a program I call SASSI. And that is an acronym. Stands for strong, assertive, smart, sexy, and independent. And I was not always that woman. That is for sure. Right. But thank you for having me.
Of course. Yeah. It's when you were telling me your story about like 2 weeks back, it was... Yeah, I mean, I've heard some other crazy ones. Of course, I have my own, but I was just like, wow, where this is going somewhere, and it didn't. I mean, I'm happy to know now that you're doing so much better. But if you heard what I heard when you told me this, it was like, wow, like if you were telling me this was someone else's story, I'm like, wow, they're probably dead or they've given up, and it's obviously not the case.
I honestly, TJ, I should have been dead many times in my life by my own doing. I did attempt suicide several times throughout my life, 3 in the abusive relationship. Outside of that was, just stupid shit I did, situations I was in, being kidnapped at 19, 20 years old, held for 4 or 5 days, drugged out in a cabin for 24 hours. I mean, the shit that I should not be here today, but by the grace of God and my angels, I'm here. And I'm the reason I do this is to get the story out, let other people know that we do go through quite a few adversities in our life.
For sure. Yeah.
But if we had the mindset and the willpower, we can do all right. We can get out. Yeah. We can do better, and we can teach others and help others.
Right. So, and I'm asking you this for a reason, because there's a follow-up question. But when did you actually start dating, like an age-wise, or at least within a range?
Dating? There was no dating in my life.
Well, you know what I mean. Like
I would not call it. That one. See, that's a totally different question. So that probably came about at 12, 13 years old. Okay. And that was because of all the sexual abuse that I had endured that I didn't remember, and that I, of course, then did remember. Yeah. The only way, it's funny that you asked that, because it's only been recently that was kind of an aha moment for me in my healing, that I went, oh, so that's why I did all that stupid shit. That's why, because what I had learned through outside environment and family members, that the only way to receive love was if I was being sexually abused.
Right.
And that's what I had learned. That's what they taught me. So, of course, when the female body becomes in that stage of life, in the teenager, preteen, and we start going through the girl things, I explored. And that was the only way that I knew to try and find love. Obviously that was the wrong thing to do, but I didn't know it at the time.
Well, for sure. And you know what? Now I'm remembering more of your story. Yeah, like the follow up question isn't going to work, because the follow up question I was going to say, like, how did you perceive, because when we're young, we, boys and girls, whatever you're into, you're like, oh my God, you think of love and you think of hanging out and just being silly and whatever. You enjoy yourself. And of course, whatever, sex and everything else comes along with it. But you have this like preconceived notion of what relationships are, but you went through so much abuse before and after. I don't know if you ever really got to kind of
I
enjoy
didn't.
or experience that kind of love
No,
or even have those
no.
feelings.
No, because I didn't know what true love was, and I don't mean true love in like fairy tales.
Yeah, sure.
What the definition of love is supposed to be. I did not learn that. I wasn't taught that. So when I was in a relationship with whether it was actually even in high school, I didn't date anybody from high school. What we call dating. I really didn't date anybody from high school. It was always older men. That's what I gravitated towards, because again, it goes back to the older men in my life when I was much younger, or the daddy figures, as some people will call it. College, I dated, always ended up in a situation I was like, oh, I should not be here. Of course, it was always the next day. And then out of college, I was married at 21, first child at 22. That marriage lasted about 20 years. That's where a lot of the drugs and alcohol came in, and the abuse of the drugs and alcohol. And then, of course, that second marriage, I apparently didn't learn my lesson and went and found a narcissistic, psychopathic son of a bitch that was very abusive. And that lasted about 6.5, 7 years. And okay, something's got to change. Something's got to give. That's where all the self-hate and the self-loathing and that SASSI was definitely gone, or so I thought.
I'm gonna go
and again,
I'm gonna go on a limb that you weren't a fan of that fella.
Whatever gave you that idea?
I don't know. I knew it was a gamble.
That's funny, because this morning, as I was getting ready for my day, I was speaking with my angels and my guides and karma, and I was thinking, karma is actually, we tend to think of karma as, a negative side, a bad thing, that, I hope you get your karma, that kind of thing. But karma can be both sides. And I was thinking, okay, karma, you need to do your thing. What would I wish? If I could make a wish to karma for him, what would I wish? Lose a limb? Because I don't want him to die. I want him to suffer. Okay. There's definitely a side of me that would love for him to suffer. Do I want him to, lose a limb? Maybe. Maybe 2 limbs. Maybe. Let's see. And then I thought, he's got a skin cancer on his forehead. And I thought, that would just be perfect. Let that skin cancer eat away at his brain, and lose his vision, because he would not be able to survive. He just would not survive if he could not see or function in a narcissistic way. Yeah. That would be, but that's karma. That's up to her how she decides to do it.
Well, what I love.
Oh, no.
What I love is, like, because everyone wants to try to play like they're such a good person and whatever. But like, when you go through so much and you go through a lot of abuse, there is a lot of bitterness and even pettiness. There's a lot of things that are all like melting inside you, and you just want to. Sometimes you do want someone else to pay for how badly you suffered on their hands, by their hands, and it's like. Like I said, a lot of people like to play the good guy thing. Like, oh, no, I hope they're okay and happy. It's like, no, horse shit. No, you don't. You really don't.
Well, you can't have light without dark.
Yeah.
And I 90% of me is and everyday life, I am 100% the light. That's the message I try and spread. But when it comes to him, yeah, there is definitely a little bit, because he took so much from me, not just the physical abuse, but my dignity, my humor was gone. I attempted suicide 3 times with him. Everything was gone. My SASSI, my total essence. as a woman was gone, complete everything gone. And he gained so much from it. I almost lost my house, all the physical, forget the physical abuse, the gunshot wound to the head, the broken wrist and cracked ribs with a rubber mallet, the bruises all over my body, black eyes left and right. Like I had to wear sunglasses all the time. Not granted it was Florida, but, it's that psychological and that mental that scars deeper and longer than the physical. Obviously the gunshot wound to the head is healed. My wrist is healed. No bruises on my body. Those heal. It's the psychological that impacts anyone, man or woman, that goes through any type of abuse.
Do you feel do you feel like you had like a sign over your head saying like damaged and just like, not even just easy. I don't even mean easy like sexual, like, but like just like you were easily taken advantage of, because obviously when he got a hold of you, had already had a lot of damage done upon you. But I mean, do you feel like you had something that just said like broken, where these guys, like when they met they were just like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun?
That's an interesting question. That's a really good question. There are women out there that have been abused that feel that way and that think that way. Because we always go back to, after the abuse, whether it's physical or other, why me? What did I do wrong? What did I say wrong? What did I not do right? What did I not say right? All those questions that we bring it all back into me, what did I? But there's other philosophies of thought that will say it's not me, it's not what I did, that he's the broken person. He's the one that has the issue. And I'm torn on that question. Do I think I had? Yes, because of all my previous traumas. Was I wearing war paint? Was I wearing a sign? Was there a neon light flashing behind my head that I didn't know about? To answer that question, the best way for me to answer this is I gained knowledge throughout this whole process. And that is what healed me. That is what, knowing that it wasn't completely me. Granted, there were some things that I did. I was a huge alcoholic and drug addict, without a doubt. Did that help the situation? Oh, hell no.
What I mean, because I mean, of course, he was obviously broken as well. But I mean, like, like when a lion a lot of times goes after, if they're going to go after something big like an elephant, they tend to go for a sick elephant or a baby.
Exactly.
They don't go for the big bull elephant that will wreck their shit.
Right. Well, in that sense, and again, I'll go back to the dark needs the light. And I think we tend to be, because of that abuse that we've endured, because of the previous traumas, that we brought that light out and we said, okay, you know what? I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be that person. I don't think we're the sick or injured lion. I don't think we're, not intentionally anyway, maybe we're not aware of it. And that's where the knowledge part comes in. But we took the opposite of what we endured and brought it to light. And that is what attracted us, like a moth to a light bulb. That is what attracts those type of men, the narcissist, the abuser, because they want our light. They want our hope. They want our love. And because of all the shit that we've been through, that in my particular case, I turned that all around and said, I don't want to be nasty. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be vindictive. I don't want to be, the karma's little helper. I want to be stronger. I want to be better. I want to be healthier. And that grew my sassy inside and grew my light inside. And I think that's what attracted him, that a lot of it, now a lot of it was him. A lot of it is him. It is that abuser. It is that person that no matter who came into my life, I was still a shining light. I was still positive and outgoing and happy. I had a great job. I loved my job. I loved my kids. I had a home. I had everything I could possibly want. I was making really good money. And he sucked that. It's like a mosquito.
Yeah.
He came in and he saw that and he sucked all of that out, little by little, bites every day, many bites throughout the day. So he just sucked everything out of me. He just sucked my blood dry, like a mosquito.
And as you and I discussed, and you said a couple weeks ago about, a lot of people really think it all is just this physical, like when you hear abuse, but a lot of it is just verbal and mental. And I'm sure that's probably where it starts first, because you have to kind of mold that person in the way you want them. And then once you do that, then you can kind of start tempting other things. You can make them do whatever it is and bend them however you want.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that is so true. And this is what I teach my clients is that, and when I give interviews like this, I do try and stress that the abuse does not, we have this stigma that when you say the word abuse or domestic violence, you automatically think physical. And it is not. When you're in a relationship with a partner, it does not start out as physical. It's not like, one day, we're dating and everything's all fine and hunky dory. And the next morning we get up and out of the blue, he decides to punch me in the face. That is not how it starts. It is that control, especially with a narcissist. That is like a double-edged sword coming at you. It does start out him feeling the waters, testing the waters. How far can I push? And as women, in nurturers, we allow that because we love. We want what we think is love. We want to love. We want to give. We want to nurture. We want to grow. This is my second marriage. My kids were pretty much grown, out of the house on their own. I wanted to be able to give love. I wanted to be able to have a man in my life that would show me love. And it's a fine line. There are small, minute little details that he will do that, the first time you're like, oh, okay. And you think about it, because, and this is how to break it down. The mind basically says, well, okay, because I love you, and because we're a couple and we're married, I can let this slide. And we do that in normal, healthy relationships.
Yeah.
But it's with, an abusive man like this that you let it, and he tests and he pushes and pushes and pushes and tries to go farther and farther. And before you know it, you're so far in the hole that you're going, what the fuck just happened? And of course, it could be 6 months, a year later. You're like, when I was on the toilet crying, begging for him to, end my life, and that was 4 years into the marriage. I'm going, just take my life already. And if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But it was a buildup over time that it happened. It does not happen overnight. It does not happen with, physical abuse first. It is all those others that come into play beforehand.
Yeah, and I would assume a lot of it is deeply seated in them, where God knows what they went through in their childhood and their life. Not that it's still an excuse, but whatever they went through fucked them up, and now they're so like rotting inside and so dark, they can't imagine anyone even giving them the time of day. And then someone is, and it's like, well, this person likes me, and I'm a hunk of shit. And it's like, well, then I guess, well, I'm gonna make them feel how I feel inside. And you get to a point where they keep, like, they'll poke you once and they're like, oh, she didn't say anything. I'm gonna poke her twice. Oh, she's still not saying anything. I'm gonna push her. And you just keep going as far as you can, just to tempt. And it's like, wow, I've made it this far and we're still here. Like, this is awesome. And obviously it's not, but it's, to them, it's just like a game. And I don't know, it's a very psychological, just warfare type of thing.
It is. And I wish that, in my particular situation, I don't think any of those thoughts ever crossed his mind. And if they did, he would never admit it. I wish in every relationship that both the husband and wife, whatever the two partners are, whatever that relationship is, I wish somebody would have enough to say, am I okay? Even if it's internally, is this right? Is this the way I'm supposed to have a relationship? Is what I'm doing? And if you say it internally, have enough balls to say something to your spouse, your partner. And if you can't, seek a coach, seek a therapist, something. If you feel, and I tell this to my clients, mostly women, if you feel it in your gut and in your intuition, that maybe there's a problem, there's a fucking problem. Because that's your body telling you, hello, there's an issue here. Let's fix it. My body did. My body did. My body told me all the time. I refused. I didn't recognize them at first. And then when I did, I refused to accept them. And that's where the problem was. Again, I stayed 6.5, almost 7 years, and it got worse before it got better.
Yeah, I always say if I listened to my intuition, I'd probably be 100% right all the time.
Exactly.
But I tend not to because it's sometimes whatever it tells me is kind of what I really wouldn't like to do. Maybe come out of my comfort zone. It's like, I don't really want to do that. I'd rather just do this. And then of course it bites me in the ass, and I go, oh man.
Right? You get it.
Yeah. Can you, before we kind of get into like that night and a lot of like this relationship, can you kind of go through periodically of some of the things you went through like before him? Like, because you went through a lot of trauma well before he got to you.
Oh God, yeah. Well, let's see. I had found out that I was molested by a family member from very early on till about 4 or 5 years old. Around 11 or 12, right in that age, I had an uncle that raped me. As I stated, high school years were tough. I lost a brother when I was 16. He was 15. To alcohol. So alcohol abuse ran in our family. Yeah. What other major traumas? Geez, when I hit high school or college, that was freedom. I was no longer living under mom and dad's thumb rule. I could explore, and Lord knows I did. I was I guess 18 or 19. And I went to a party, and there was a DJ there. I'll never forget what I was wearing. Guess jeans and a black Angora sweater. This was in Michigan. That's where I went to school. And he took a break in between or was done with the night. And I remember him coming over and asking to get me a drink. And who knew back then? Asked to get me a drink. Because this was back in, 80. I graduated high school 83. So 84, 85, somewhere in there. Brought me a drink, and next thing I remember is waking up tied to his bed, completely naked, still under drugs, and it was probably one of the worst nights of my life. And it was several nights. Like I said, it was like 4 or 5 days that he held me there, and I was always under a grogginess. I would eat when he told me to eat. I would shower when he told me to shower, brush my teeth when he told me to brush my teeth, go to the bathroom when he told me to go to the bathroom. And basically he had his way with me for 4 or 5 days. I don't even remember how long it was.
How'd you get away? He let you go?
He took me home. And that was scary because he knew where I lived. And it was an apartment that I lived in by myself. And for probably 2 weeks, I never left my apartment. I was so scared because when he took me upstairs and put me in my bed, he said, if you tell anybody about this, I know all about you. I will kill you and I will kill your family. And when you're 18, 19 years old, you believe that shit. Yeah. I didn't know enough back then, not certainly, what I know now. That was scary, PJ.
I can imagine.
That was, yeah. I mean, that was, and the things he did to me, honey, I'm not even going to say on the
No, I got you.
Right. I mean, it was bad. I mean, if you see, the TV shows and the news and some of that stuff, I mean, it was that bad and then some.
Yeah, and another scary part that you can imagine is you weren't the only person.
Exactly.
I guarantee that wasn't the first time he did that, or the last.
No, No, everything was, you're right. Everything was too well planned. As he's still doing it. And the thing is, his day job was to drive as a limo driver. So he's meeting women all the time. Yeah. Now, where he's at today, I have no idea. Like I said, this was back in 84, 85. So,
no, I got you.
Again, another older man, and I'm not much older, but older, maybe 25, 26. Like I said, I was 19 or 20.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
That was a bad one. And, and again, I for the longest time, I blamed myself. Well, if I didn't go, I shouldn't have said no. I should have just stuck with my friends. I should have, because I did have girlfriends that were there with me. Why didn't they say something when I went missing? Why aren't the police looking for me? All those things go through your head.
Sure. Yeah.
That was definitely a big one. And then you would think I would have learned my lesson. You would think I would have learned talk about not listening to your gut, okay, and not following your intuition. So I hit 20, and a girlfriend of mine that I was going to school with, she lived in upstate New York. And we had planned just a kind of a long weekend. And we went out. Now, the drinking age in New York at that time was, I think, 18 or 19. So we were over drinking age. We went to a bar, local bar, kind of like this was, like I said, out in the woods outside of Buffalo. So, there's more farm and animals than people kind of thing. I loved playing pool, and I was always a flirt. I was always the fun girl at the party. And I could play pretty good pool. And a bunch of hunters came in, and we're talking 30, 40-year-old hunters, and there was maybe 5 or 6 of them, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. And of course, being the flirt that I am, when we start playing pool, and I lost the first game, and I said, you guys want to play for some money? And they're like, oh yeah, you're an easy target, of course. So I let them win the first game under money. And of course, the second game I won. They weren't real happy about that. The one guy was not real happy. Took him again for a second game. He was all done, buying us drinks. And honestly, I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you how I ended up. I remember the car. It was a huge, long Cadillac. A Cadillac, like a 60s, mid to late 60s. And the way I know this is because I grew up in a junkyard. And being squashed in the back seat with 2 on my right, 2 on my left, and 2 in the front. And I have no idea how long we drove. We had been drinking. I was certainly buzzed. And we get to a cabin where they were hunting from. And of course, it's a hunting cabin. There is nothing around but woods and animals. And the next morning, I was like, you guys got to think, what they did to me, use your imagination. 6 guys, 1 girl, use your imagination. Yeah. I did finally make it home late morning, or at least back to the bar, I think it was. And I called my friend. I said, you've got to come get me. Oh my God, Christine, where have you been? We've been looking all over for you. I said, well, I'm in the right place, obviously. And even if you guys were looking, you were never going to find me. I did not know how I was going to get out of those woods. And there was a point the next morning when I was thinking, looking out the window, and, you go through, how the fuck do I get out of here? This is upstate New York. It is cold. It is, 10, 20 degrees, if that. Right. In the middle of winter, in the middle of hunting season. I have no idea where my shoes are. I found my clothes, found my coat, finally found my purse. All my money was gone out of my purse, which is fine. I don't care. It was probably less than $100. Here's 6 guys that, just had their way with me. And how do you reason? I'm trying to get my wits about me, and how do you reason? Hey guys, can you please take me back to where you got me from? That's the kind of shit I put myself into, and that's the kind of shit that I go, what the fuck were you doing? But again, it wasn't until, I got out okay. I got back home. I survived. But I didn't realize till much later, within this past year, that I had people looking over me. I had my angels looking over me, and they have saved my life more times, obviously, with, trying to commit suicide, motorcycle accidents when I'm in a blackout, should have died, didn't, the gunshot wound to the head, that was them. I have angels. I have people looking over me that are going, you are destined for bigger, better things, girl. We need you alive. Stop trying to kill yourself. So, but you don't realize that, I was 20 years old, 21 years old, whatever it was. And I'm going, okay, whatever. You just think it's life. You think everything's fine, but it's not. Again, the signs are all there that I needed help. I just chose to ignore them and not listen to my gut and to my intuition.
Right. So when you actually did end up meeting this wonderful fella that you have such good regard for, well, at the time, were you looking for something like?
No, not even in the slightest. I was already divorced from my first husband. I was definitely enjoying life. Okay. So I thought I was enjoying life. I had a great job, as I said, was making great money, but here I was going out every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to whatever bar will take me, and making my rounds. And probably every single night I brought home, those 3 nights, I brought home a different guy. I was fine with it. I was okay with it. I was like, the next morning, okay, there's the door. See ya. I got my fun. I got what I needed. I got what I wanted, or so I thought. But I was fine with that life. It was certainly not a healthy lifestyle that I was leading by any means. I had gotten my DUI. I had gotten drunk so many times that, again, men taking me home, taking advantage of me, gang rapes again, but you block it. And what I was doing was blocking all the trauma that had happened in my life, okay? But I didn't know it at the time. I was certainly not looking. No, I was... And he came in so suave and coy. I was working at a storage facility, and he couldn't even look me in the eyes. He had brought actually he was doing handyman service, and his boss, or the guy that hired him, brought him in. We were also a U-Haul dealer, so he was coming into the big guy was coming in to rent a U-Haul truck. And he had hired this person, my favorite person in the world, to drive the truck across the state and come back. Mm-hmm. And I was fine with who I was. I was fine with my life. I was, getting drunk every night. Absolutely. Meeting guys, some, stayed a little longer than others. Some stayed longer than I wanted them to. Some were gone the next morning. I was perfectly fine with the life that I was living. What I didn't realize is all the damage that lifestyle was doing to not only my body, but my mind. Mm. So in comes Mr. Wonderful and couldn't even look me in the eye. I'm dealing with the main customer. And the next day, he brings this truck back, and he wants to come into the front parking lot where there's definitely not enough room for a 26-foot long U-Haul truck. And I went out and said, whoa, you can't park that here. You got to take it out back. I'll get on the golf cart. I'll meet you there. I'll pick you up. My personality, my bubble, I wasn't looking at this guy in any way other than he's a customer, and quite frankly, he's a jackass for parking here. How could you not realize that? Mm-hmm. You see all the other trucks. Go back there. But I was nice. I was cordial, customer service. I was on the job. That's what I do. And I picked him up in the golf cart. He's sitting in the second seat. We're driving down, and his exact words were, I will never forget them for the rest of my life, were, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you how beautiful you are. And I was like, that's a first.
Huh.
And I took a piece of paper. Now, okay, I'll get there. So I took a piece of paper off the cart and I wrote my phone number down and I said, you just earned my phone number. I left it at that. I didn't think nothing of it. Now, in the meantime, what had happened, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks before this encounter, I had my bike accident and I had road rash all over my body. And I mean face, my nose, from the bottom of my nose to the top of my lip, the bottom of my lip to my chin, on top of my knuckles, on my arms. Because of the way I crashed, my sunglasses hit my eyes, so I had 2 bruised eyes. Obviously, the alcohol was involved. Not a pretty night. I had ended up going home with a guy, and when I got sober and came out of the blackout, I was like, oh, what the fuck? Get me the hell out of here. Wasn't even thinking, and got on my bike and left, and I wrecked. I didn't fully wreck my bike, but I went down, and obviously I had all these bruises on my body. Yeah. So back to Mr. Wonderful. I didn't think anything of it. I said, okay, the normal would be, of course, I didn't know what normal was. Okay, so maybe he'll text me, maybe a call, and this was back in 2012 is when we met. And a few hours goes by, I'm doing my job, enjoying life, looking forward to going home and getting drunk because that was the only way to suppress the pain, not physical pain, the emotional and mental pain. And a few hours goes by, and he walks back in, and he brought sea salt and cotton swabs. And he said, I noticed that sea salt and some hydrogen peroxide to clean up your bruises, clean up your road rash. I was like, oh, okay. Here's a really nice gesture. Nobody else has done that. Everybody else, going out to the bars when everybody saw that, like, damn, what does the other guy look like? One of those.
Right, yeah.
So, I thought I was in love. I thought I was infatuated. I was like, wow, nobody has ever done this for me before. This is really nice. And he stayed a few minutes and left. And being the big flirt that I am, I texted him right away because I think he had texted me once in between there, maybe to find out what time I was working till. And I texted him. I said, if I need help applying this, are you available? Total, oh my God. It's like, I'm 40 some years old, my late 40s, and I'm acting like an 18-year-old, So, sorry. So, next thing I know, now I had gotten a DUI in between when my first marriage was ended and throughout all my party days. And before meeting him, it was, I think, maybe 3 or 4 months before I met him that I got my DUI. So driving was out of the question. I had already lost my license for the allotted time. And, either I was walking it or biking it home. And thank goodness I only lived by car. I only lived maybe 5-7 minutes away. So he ends up showing up and, has all the fixings for this was, I think, the same day, all the fixings for a huge steak dinner, baked potatoes. I think it was a sirloin. I don't know. And he's like, I'll cook you dinner if you let me take you home. And I'm like, okay, wow. Here, again, here's like the third time and, major that I'm going, wow, this guy maybe, maybe I should give it a shot, And we ended up sleeping together that night. Dinner burnt. We did have a really great conversation. But again, that's the narcissist, and I learned all this afterwards. Great conversation, sharing, stories. I suspect now that a lot of what he said were lies, and he just being the narcissist that he is, bringing out the nice person in me and the person that was, looking for love. And one thing led to another, and not even a full year later, and obviously all the bullshit that happened in between, we were married.
Well, I think so fascinating because, again, I think some people just imagine that it's always bad, but you have to kind of start from somewhere. Like, you have to kind of bring someone in. You can't just bring them in by punching them in the face. It won't, it probably won't work unless you're just like a masochist or you like some sort of abuse.
Right.
So it's very interesting, fascinating to hear because, I mean, I know enough people who have been through similar situations, so I know, but it's good to hear that because like I said, some people may think that it's always abusive, it's always just something bad, but sometimes it really starts off nice and it's this little dream fantasy relationship, and then it goes left real quick, and however long it takes to get there, but it gets there because there's a lot of people will say, like, they'll ask, was there any signs, and they're like, no, he or she was just a sweet person, they did this and did that, and then out of nowhere this happened, and then it just kind of dissolved from there. So like I said, it's good to paint the picture for those, especially for those who are struggling with it currently, and maybe they thought that, like, because I'm sure there's some women that are in the middle, because there's you hear, especially with women, where it's like, well, he does this because he loves me, he does this even if it's the worst case scenario, and sometimes they hone on the really great things that this person did for them. It's like, wow, like him like wiping you down and cleaning you up and not judging your abrasions and everything that was all over your body. He's not judging you, and he still wants to talk to you and date you, and it's like, oh, he's such a sweet guy. And then now he's caving your head in, and it's like, but there was this time where he did this, and I'll never forget that because no guy ever did that. And it's and it's good to hear because there are women that are conflicted with that. And
the biggest thing that I hear, TJ, is, but I love him. I'm like, oh, okay. So, the black eye is his way of showing love. I mean, I understand there's physical love language, but that ain't it. But I love him. No, honey, that is not love. And there's an issue deeper inside that woman, if it's a woman being abused, that she needs to heal, just like I did. I had to go deep and understand, why was I like this? Why was I attracted? We brought this up in the beginning. Why was I attracted to men like this? Why did I seek that? Why did I not knowingly look for it? So there's a deeper issue inside. And I'm not saying that women are we're not at fault. It's not, again, we don't have that sign that says, hello, here I am, abuse me. I mean, we really don't, TJ. I know you asked the question and then kind of skirted around that, but I mean, we do, but we don't. Okay. It's not like we're actively, it's probably more of not a neon sign, but it's probably a lot less, noticeable, other than to that person that is drawn to somebody that is kind and caring and loving, and they see that and go, oh, this is an easy target.
Yeah.
But when women say, but I love him, we have got to stop that. We have got to say no, to set those boundaries. I had a discussion with another coach the other day, and we were talking about boundaries, and you look at all the social media things, and I look at this stuff and I see it, and I'm like, oh, you guys are so missing the point. Yes, we can say we need to set boundaries. I set my boundaries. Well, you know what? When you're in an abusive relationship, again, it goes back to that it doesn't start out as physical. Okay, so, the little things like the smack across the face. Oh, okay, I'm sorry I said that. Now, I set a boundary saying, please don't hit me. Okay, that's just kind of mutual in a relationship. But then he hits me. And I erase that boundary and put another boundary that says, okay, if you hit me, please don't leave a mark. Not verbally doing this. This is all through our body language and through actions that we set the boundary, but then we erase that line and set another one and another one and another one. And to an abusive person, the person that's doing the abusing, they look for that weakness, that fault. Okay. And I'm not saying that women are weak or fault. Please don't misunderstand
No,
because we are not.
But I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like if you continue to keep drawing the line and they keep stepping over it, but you keep drawing lines, it's like you're not really going anywhere. So it's like it's like the bully mentality. It's like every day he's going to take your money, but you go, well, okay, you can take my lunch money, just don't take my shoes. And then he takes your shoes, and you're like, well, you know, don't take my action figure, or don't take this, don't take. And they just keep doing it, and you're going along with the new rules. But you just don't want it to go any further, but really, you're just setting yourself for more hurt.
Exactly. And that's one of the other things that I try and teach my clients is that we have to be stern in our boundaries. If this is a boundary you set, and we start small, we start with little ones. We start with ones that are achievable, that are boundaries, and it could be just personal boundaries. You know what? Today I am not going to eat that piece of chocolate. And you stick to that. It can be that simple to start with. You know, Martin Luther King said, you know, we can't climb, and I'm paraphrasing, you can't climb the stairs and we don't see the rest of the spiral staircase till we take that first step. And that's what we need to do. Let's take that first step. It's a little one, but as long as we're taking that step to be healthier and stronger, assertive, smart, sexy, and independent.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You're gonna relapse. You're gonna fall on your face sometimes. You are.
Yeah.
But and I always say the quicksand thing. It's always you want to take 2 steps forward and 1 step backward. If you're doing it the other way around, then you're failing. Like that's when you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But you're always gonna take that 1 step backward. You're gonna have days where you screw up because one, you're human and you're not perfect, and it just happened. And then especially when you've gone through as much as you've gone through. I mean, you're still probably healing to this day, even though you're in a better place. You're still gonna make mistakes. You may not make all the same mistakes, but again, like I said, you're also human, and it happens. So as long as but like when you make mistakes now, currently, they don't affect you as much, or like look with your like especially with mental health, that we talk about a lot, like. When you have a really bad day, whether it's anxiety, depression, whatever, you're not like simmering in it or marinating in it for months or days or weeks. It's kind of a couple hours or maybe at best a day. And the next day you wake up and you're like, okay, I want to live again. And this is a good day.
Yes.
And that's the 2 step forward, 1 step backward. It's like, you're going to have that day where you just hate life, you hate yourself, or you're constantly honing on your mistakes.
I just had that a few weeks ago.
I know.
I'm going, oh my, right. I'm going, right, exactly. And I'm like, and seriously, TJ, I had again seriously contemplated and really, because of my AA background and going through AA and NA and everything else that I've gone through, I had to seriously think that thought through and go, Christine, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you having these thoughts again? Now, the biggest lesson I learned from that, TJ, and I know we need to bring abuse and domestic violence forefront and in the spotlight, but we also need to bring mental health. I just had a conversation with somebody about that the other day, that we need to change the word mental health. It has gotten somewhat of a negative stigma, and it should not. And I can tell you, we both know from experience that mental health is so crucial. A good, positive, healthy mental health is crucial in our being. And I just went through, but the biggest lesson that I learned when I was going through, and it only lasted a few hours in the evening, at the end of the day, maybe 6, 7 o'clock at night till about 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. But I had to think that thought through completely, like every minutia of everything in my life. Okay, well, where would this be? Well, does that matter? Does this matter? What about my kids? What about my grandkids? What about where I live? What about my dog? What about my 2 cats? And, really think that thought through. And if it were not for the fact that I gathered a good, healthy set of friends and other coaches, you and I would not be talking today. I would not be here, because that's how much I thought the thought through, and still almost went, fuck it. What's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to be reincarnated, start all over again, have to relearn all these fucking lessons. Oh, well, you know what? I am so sick and tired of this. I mean, TJ, I was even me being as far healed as I am, being a coach to other women that I am, I do go through this. We will never fully heal, I believe. It's just as women of abuse or victims of abuse, we just never fully heal. There's so much that happened in whether it's a short period of time or a long period of time and I'm addressing every single issue I possibly can. And when it comes up, I sit with it and I think about it and I talk to my friends about it. And I really do. I talk to my friends. A lot of my friends are coaches that I'm going, why am I having this thought? Why am I having this feeling? What do I do about it? How do I address it? And I get all kinds of suggestions and tools and try this, Christine, and obviously the biggest one is I'm not getting off the phone with you. That is the biggest one. And we have a hard time when it comes to suicide in general, as humans, we have a hard time knowing how to help that person on the other end. We have a hard time saying and accepting that really can't you just, flip a switch in your head and just move on and, go to bed and, maybe you'll be better tomorrow. Really? Yeah. There are times that I wish people could understand that side. I wish everybody could learn the 12 steps because there's so much just human knowledge in there and human care and love that you learn. And a lot about ourselves that we learn going through those programs. We should be teaching this shit to kids in school. We wouldn't have gun violence. We wouldn't have half the shit if kids, and if we just got back to the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If we could all just live that and teach it and support it and breathe it, this world would be a better place.
Yeah, no, for sure. You have to try to find ways. Because I when I first did one of my episodes with talking about depression, I named it like the dark cloud, just because of it's always something over your head, and it comes over you whenever it feels like it. But I one of the things I said towards the end, I was like, just as a regular person out there in the world, don't be the reason why someone kills himself. And I know that's a lot of pressure, but it's like sometimes some people are really holding on just by dear life, and they just want a nice interaction with a stranger, with anyone. And you could just be that one dick that gets in their way, and it's not intentional, but you could be that one person that just sets them off and goes, well, everyone sucks, the world is bad, and I'm done. And it can be very rough, and again, some people are very mentally fragile, and especially when they're at their, like when you were saying, when you do get knocked down and you have to start over, that's another really fucked up realization, because it's like, I am not doing this again. I just did this however long ago, even if it was years ago. It's like, I don't want to do this. I can't do it. Like, and that's something as people like you and I who are super strong, we don't realize how strong we are and what we can endure, because we're looking at it from the bottom. And we're just like, oh my God, I can't climb this again. I barely made it through last time.
Yes. And there's a saying that I somewhat cringe when I hear it. Okay, that says, well, God only gives his toughest battles to his strongest warriors. And I'm like, fuck that shit. I am so done fighting this battle. There are days where I go, I am done fighting this battle. I cannot fight anymore. I cannot go on anymore. What is there? What is wrong? What do I need to change? I'm done fighting. I just want to rest. I just want to rest.
Yeah.
And yes, those are the thoughts where you go, like, permanent rest, not just sleep at night and get up in the morning, Of course, sleep is sleep is, maybe I'll sleep tonight, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll sleep through the night. Maybe I'll be up 3 times. It affects everything.
Yeah, it's like if you were an animal and you get trapped in a trap and then you gnaw your leg off, and it's like, well, okay, I only have one more leg left, so now I'm gonna gnaw that off too, and then I'm gonna crawl first, because You keep getting
Yes.
all these setbacks, and that's the thing. That's where you mentally have to check yourself and realize, what are you doing to cause this, and not necessarily like the rapes and the abuse and stuff, but like there is a part to play, and it is like, what am I doing? How am I putting myself in these positions? Obviously, taking drinks from strangers and things like that, but you have to figure out, how am I causing this, even if it's a small part. You have to realize, because you have to rewire yourself. You have to change that.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's not going to change. And they're going to continue to see this in you, that one thing that gives them the sign that, oh, you're that kind of person that I could do this to. Because there are people they wouldn't try that with. And
absolutely.
And you give off that, whatever it is, whatever feeling, emotion, vibe you give off, they sense it. And that's the thing you have to delete. But to do that, you have to go backwards, and you have to go through everything you've been through, and you have to say, what am I doing? And what is like the recurring theme here? And, you know.
Step 4 in AA. Take a moral inventory. Seriously, I mean, that was, when I did that, and one of my coaches, she's also a recovering alcoholic, and she actually said to me, as I was going through this a couple of weeks ago, she said, Christine, I want you to read the 3rd step prayer, and I want you to go back to step 3 and step 4. And I'm like, seriously? She's like, And she's kind of putting her hand up to me going, girlfriend, just listen to what I'm telling you, okay? And I went, and I'm like, okay, I got my AA book out, and I'm like, oh, shit. So yeah, it is. You're right, TJ. It's. I have to look inward to be able to, because that's where the problem really is. And I hate using that word. I don't like the word problem, but that's where, is it an issue? Is it a conflict? I haven't quite come up with the right word, but whatever it is, it starts from the inside. It does. And I have to, I do that, 2 weeks ago after, the next morning after I finally got some sleep, and I'm going, okay, I need to write this down. I need to take where did I falter? Where did I step off the path? Where did I end up in the woods instead of on the, how did I, derail, whatever metaphor you want to use, right. But it was basically going back to me and inside. Okay, what do I need to heal? What do I need to fix? What do I need to change? What do I need to adjust? Because, we cannot fix, we cannot change anybody but ourselves. And it has to start with each other. We have to start taking a look inward and saying, okay, how can I be better? How can I make the world a better place? How can I just, even if my world is just, my house, my kids, my animals, my pets, the little neighborhood that I live in, whatever your little world is, in your job and your wherever you make your money at, okay? How can I make this better? Right. And it starts within.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to get to kind of what you're doing today and how much, how great of the things you're doing. Before that, I guess we have to finish off this chaotic relationship. So obviously the suicide attempts and that crazy night. So I want you to just kind of take us through it real quick, or however long you take. But just so, unfortunately we have to paint the picture, because again, there are people that are going through this currently, and it's terrible.
Okay. So we met in 2012, married in 2013. 2015, I think, is when I reached and I say I think for a reason, because of what happened afterwards. Mm-hmm. So we were drunk, probably Tito's tequila or whatever the hell it was. I don't know, whatever we were drinking. And my drug of choice at that time was Captain Morgan Silver Spiced Rum. And by the way, I am a recovering alcoholic for a little over 6 years now.
Congratulations.
So thank you. I just want you listeners to know that I am recovered from that.
I know, you told me,
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we were drinking because, that's the byproduct of being in an abusive relationship. We turn to drugs and alcohol to hide the pain, cover the pain. And I don't even remember what happened. I know I remember I remember this was my house. I owned it. It was in my name only. Never put him on the mortgage. Thank God. Goddess. So I'm sitting on the toilet in my bedroom, and I'm sitting backwards, and I am leaning over the tank, and I'm sobbing and crying. He probably hit me, pulled my hair. I can't tell you how much hair I lost from, clumps being pulled out throughout this time. And I'm trying to stay quiet, and I'm trying to not piss him off any more than he already is. Yeah. And I'm sobbing and weeping and crying. And I had closed and locked the bedroom door. And he came in, wanted to, and realized that it was locked. And I'm trying to stop crying. I'm trying real hard because, when you're in that situation, the more you cry, the worse it's going to get. It's kind of like, if you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about. I hate that saying.
Now, are you crying just because you're realizing the situation you're in, or did he hurt you? Like, what do you remember why you were crying at the time?
Like I said, we were drinking, so it was probably something that I said or did the wrong way, set him off. Yeah. I don't remember. I honestly do not remember, and you'll understand why I don't remember shortly.
Right, of course.
So he walks away. I could tell that he was walking away, probably screaming, yelling something. The next thing I remember is I'm still trying to stop my sobbing, and then when I say, I mean like from the pit of my gut sobbing. Yeah. And 2, 3 heavy hits. And I didn't realize till after the fact that he had gone out to the garage and gotten a sledgehammer and busted down the door. And of course I'm thinking, oh, fuck. And I still can't stop crying. I'm like, please. And, internally I'm going, please, Kristen, stop crying. You know how bad it's going to get. You know how bad it's going to get. And I heard him open the dresser. And I heard the gun talk. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And at that point, I was like, I was done. I was done. I was physically done, mentally done, just done. I had already attempted suicide twice with him. I was done. I was done. I'm still crying. And he came up behind me, smacked me upside the head, probably with the side of the gun. Put the gun on top of my head, and if you don't shut the fuck up, I'll pull this fucking trigger. And he's yelling and screaming at me, and obviously calling names, the whole 9 yards, everything. And I got to a point where that moment in me flipped, and every ounce of whatever was left in me came out. And I turned to the left. He was kind of on my right, and the gun was on the right side of my head, pointing right down the top of my head. And I turned over and I said, do it, you fucking piece of shit. Just pull the fucking trigger. Just pull it. You ain't got balls big enough to pull it. Pull the fucking trigger. You piece of shit. You pussy. Pull the goddamn fucking trigger. End my fucking life now. Get it over and done with. I am done. And he pulled the trigger. And I sat there for a moment, and 2 things went through my head. Oh, fuck, I'm not dead. And the second thought was, oh, fuck, I'm not dead. One was relief. One was, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm deaf, because obviously, and it was a 40 caliber gun. It was not a small gun. So I'm deaf, ringing in my ears. I could feel the blood starting to trickle down my head and kind of, going from there. I could hear that he was yelling at me, but I couldn't make out what he was saying, obviously because of the deafness of the blast of the gun.
Right.
I could smell the burnt skin, the burnt hair. You never forget that. And I looked up slightly and saw the huge hole in my wall. And I just sat there feeling the blood. Now it's starting to come down more. I couldn't even think. I couldn't even think. Like I said, the only two thoughts at that moment were, I'm alive. Is that good or bad? You know, I couldn't think. He gets pissed off. He realizes what he did. I'm guessing. I don't know what's going through his head, obviously. He goes and puts the gun back. Of course, you know, slapped upside the head again, cussed at, screamed at, called every name in the book, puts the gun back in the drawer, storms out. I could hear the shot glass kind of slam back down on the table. So I'm like, great, he's went back to drinking. So I sat there numb, and then I thought, well, I could finish what he couldn't start. Take that gun. I knew how many rounds are in the clip. I could finish what he didn't do. I could get the gun and pull the trigger on myself. Or I could commit homicide. Is it justifiable at that point? Probably not. I wasn't under attack. He was in the other room. It's funny how your brain just works and kicks in. So the survival mode, I guess, kicked in. And I sat there for a very long time and contemplated. Again, I, thought the thought through, what about my kids? What about my house? Is this really how I want to go out? I tried it once before, and it didn't work. What the fuck? What happens if I pull the trigger? It doesn't work. The gun jams, whatever. And for the longest time, I just sat there in total silence, numb. I didn't even tend to my wound. Didn't even know how bad the wound was. And it was probably a good 30, 40 minutes that I just sat. I just sat and stared at the wall. I don't know if any thoughts actually went through my head. I don't remember much more after that. I remember the next morning. And of course, it's always, this one was a big one. So it's not like, every other time it was, honey, I'm sorry, I'll never do that again. Bring home a gift, whether, extra food or a new nightie or a new shirt for fishing or, whatever gift he thought he could bring home. This one was different.
Right. There's no coming back from this one.
And no, there wasn't. There wasn't. So the next morning I got up. And of course, I slept in a different room. I didn't even want anything to do with him. I think I got up from the toilet and just went into the other bedroom. Still not, addressing my wound or my head or, the dried blood by now, And I woke up the next morning and it was kind of like still numb. And I kind of said to myself, Christine, what the fuck are you doing? How did it get this bad? Why did it get this bad? What are you going to do about it? How are you going to fix it? How are you getting out? How are you getting rid of him? I don't know where, of course I go throughout my day and it was probably a weekend. So, we probably ended up going fishing, pretended like nothing happened. I tried to clean up myself, in my shower and kind of go. Oh, hell no. no, because that's the embarrassment of, oh my God, how could I, this was all my fault. We think those things and going to the hospital was like the last thing that I even thought about. I tried to look at my head through the mirror. I don't think he ever looked at the damage that he'd done, even after the fact, anywhere along the lines, because this happened, like I said, in 2015. I kicked him out in 2018. So there was, 3 more years in there that we never brought this up. He never spoke about it. I never spoke about it. But something changed inside me. That next morning, something said, you've got to make a change, girl. You've got to get out. You've got to make a difference. You've got to do something. I don't know what it was, TJ. I don't know exactly what it was. I've said that I think I formulated a plan as lousy as it was. I knew I needed to get out. I did not know which way I was going to go, but I knew I needed to get out. I knew I needed to. I couldn't leave. This was my house. I'm not leaving my house. You are not getting my house. I think that SASSI essence that I talk about and teach and train about, just kind of really that flame inside there just really,
yeah.
And of course life just goes on. Like I said, we never talked about it. We still did our things. The abuse still continued, not near this bad. That was definitely, I think that was a moment for him where he went, oh fuck, am I really capable of that? Now I had found out after the fact that I kind of took a quick online quiz as if I were him and everything that I knew about him. He would have scored had he taken it and been completely honest. But as far as what I knew, he scored an 8 out of 10 on the psychopath quiz or test, which means basically he's 80% psychopath. I was like, well, I kind of knew that. So life goes on, and
before you go on, one
go ahead.
Kind of random question: do you think the reason you survive is that the bullet went through? Because you said you saw the hole in the wall, and
yes.
I would assume it went through clean. Because a lot of times when bullets get lodged in there, that's when it really causes problems. Not that I've been shot.
What happened was, I don't know. I think my guides and my angels stepped in, and because again, with all the times and all the shit that I've been throughout my life and all the times that attempted suicide, I think they stepped in and somehow moved his hand or caused him to move his hand. And what happened was it grazed my head. Deep, it was deep, but it grazed. Gotcha. Somehow it kind of bounced off the top of my head, or like I said, grazed my head and went right there. Like if picture yourself sitting on any chair and you look up and it's right there. You cannot not see that hole. So it was right there. I should not be alive. When I tell you I should not be alive, I should not be alive.
Yeah. Maybe it did like a straight shot through like the side of your head, like through your skin.
Yes.
And it did damage, but it didn't go in.
Oh yeah.
Because I was trying to come up with any reason how you. Again, it's crazy shit happened. There are people who shot themselves and blew half their face off, and they're still alive. But I was trying to figure out how this one, because it obviously it's close range, and you said it went through. You said about a hole in the wall, so I figured it obviously went through. And
yes. So. Yeah, as it turns out, it actually went through 3 walls. Like I said, 40 caliber. So it went through three walls in my house. The first bathroom, the second bathroom, and then the other side of the second bathroom, that third wall. And it lodged in. It happened to be right where the AC unit was. And it wasn't until I had going through and been, was selling the house years later that I was like, oh, I remember you little fucker. Today I wish I would have saved the shell, or the bullet, but I didn't. And I wish I would have. I wish I could have turned it into a necklace and go, look, I survived that.
Right. But go ahead. So you're getting towards the end of the relationship.
Yeah. Well, so I know we're short for time. So what had happened in this was 2015 because the alcohol got so bad. And again, I think my angel stepped in 2016, because I had always said, internally and throughout these years, I had said that, either with the things that I had tried, I would look up and say, either put me in the fucking ground or put me in the hospital. And they decided to put me in the hospital. I ended up in the hospital almost a year, 4 surgeries, 15 procedures. The second surgery, I died on the table twice. Ended up with, 78, maybe 2 staples from my chest down. They took out my appendix, my gallbladder, part of my colon, part of my intestine, and my left fallopian tube. When my surgeon came in after the second surgery, he looked at me, and the only words that he basically said were, "Christine, if you take another drink, you will die." And I kind of internally said, it's a theory I don't want to test. So even throughout my year, almost a year in and out of the hospital, the first stay was 8 weeks. Second stay was about 7 weeks. When I finally had the third surgery, that was about a week. Throughout all that time, he was still cheating on me. I was even lucky if he came to visit me in the hospital. Now, we're married. I mean, wouldn't you think that if your wife was going through and died on the table twice, that you'd be there as much as you possibly could and take care and be there with her and, show up maybe, 2-3 times a day, whatever it took. Yeah. I was lucky if he came once. And even then it was max 15 minutes and he was gone. I, of course, found out after the fact, and once I got healthy again and out of the hospital, that he was seeing his side chick. So, he was, and I knew he was cheating on me well before, when all this was happening. And, again, knowing that he's cheating on me even before the gunshot, that I still tolerated it. Again, I set that boundary and he crossed it, and I let him set I set another boundary and he crossed it, and I set another one and he crossed it until it got that bad. So 2016 to 2017, April of 2017 was my last surgery. It was so bad. The damage that I had done to my body was so bad that they put a stent in my liver. My liver's since healed. Obviously, I said I'm sober. Yeah. It was like a week before I went into the hospital that I took my last drink. And of course, coming, those almost a year, that I ended up addicted to painkillers. That was fun. Like, after several months, I'm like, oh my God, Christine, you're doing it again. You got to stop. So, I did finally stop and get off the painkillers. I was on all kinds of meds. I can't tell you how many IVs I had stuck in me. I mean, it was an excruciating experience. One that I do not wish even on him. 2018, 17, I got out of the hospital, and that's when I really said, okay, this is not working. Nothing's changed. I have to make a difference. I have to do something here. How do I get him out of my house? And it wasn't until we ended up, that's what it was, late 2017, ended up with a hurricane that hit up here on the Carolinas. And he was offered a job to come up and work on the damaged hurricanes or the homes up here. So I thought, oh my God, this is great. So he said, okay, I'm going to move. And I'm like, okay, I'll support you. I mean, I totally lied. I totally, I support you. And yes, this is the best thing for you. I think this is the best thing for a relationship. You go do you. If you can send me some money, great. Help me take care of the house. And then I had pets. And he did sort of, we had gotten to a point where it was amicable. We knew we were both not meant for each other, by this point. So he left late 2017, 8 days later, I had, he left. I did not shed a tear. I probably danced now I'm already sober, had already, was dancing in my living room going, whoo-hoo, the bastard's finally out of my house, finally out of my life. Go, do what you need to do, wish you the best, but get out of my life. 8 days later, he calls and says, I'm coming back to Florida. And I'm like, oh, no, you ain't. No, you're not. And he showed up at my door and I said, nope. It was the first time in my life that I actually said no to him. He meant it. That switch happened inside of me. I was starting to heal. I was starting to grow. I was learning who I was as a woman, as a person. I was enjoying my freedom, my independence. I was learning how to live again. I was learning how to be a woman again. And well, okay, what is being, because obviously with everything we talked about with my previous history, what does it mean to be a woman? I was finding all this. I was engaged with my family again. Because that's one of the things that a narcissistic abuser will do is take away all your friends and family, and you don't even realize that it's happening. So I stood my ground and I said, no. Oh, but honey, please, it'll only be temporary. No. And those two letters are a complete sentence. No. 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 And I just kept saying no. And he ended up going back to the girlfriend. She took him in for, I don't know, a couple of months, maybe 6-8 months. And finally, she had enough of his shit, and she kicked him out. Well, where do you think he called? Me. And I was like, no, definitely not. No. And of course, the verbal abuse then starts, you're a piece of shit. I can see why your first husband didn't, want to fuck you and blah, blah, blah. I mean, like everything possible that he could think he could say to hurt me. At that point, my armor and my walls were on up. There was no penetrating me. Did I like that person back then? Oh, hell no. But I needed to. I needed to protect who I was inside, who I was becoming inside. And I needed to put up that shield for him to realize he's not getting in. He's done. He's over. And last I heard, back in 2000, I think it was early 2019, because it was 2018. I'm sorry. So the divorce was finalized in May of 2020, and I think it was the end, like November of 2019. So we're in the middle of COVID, basically, in 2020, and he tells the judge and his attorney that he had moved to North Carolina and couldn't come down, had all these ailments. Oh, the abuse that I went through from the judicial system, TJ, was almost as bad as the shit I went through with him. Seriously, it was bad. It was bad. The divorce came through in, like I said, May of 2020. The judge basically said, and I hadn't been able to return to work. I was living on disability, trying to keep myself above board. Keep myself afloat, trying to make ends meet. Couldn't really work yet. Because remember, being in the hospital for about a year, I lost all my muscle. I lost, a ton of weight. I needed to get healthy again. I couldn't lift anything. I had, again, like I said, I had 70, 80 some staples in my body, trying to heal from all that internal shit being removed and what they did inside there, and all the healing that I had to go through internally. Took a long time. So basically the judge said that, well, you've proven you can take care of yourself, and he's proven he can take care of himself. I'm not awarding anybody any alimony. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So for the first day or so, I was pissed. And then I realized, you know what? I am so glad that she said that. Yes, it was a female judge. And I said, even to my attorney, because my attorney's going, her jaw dropped. She could hardly believe this. She thought for sure, under the circumstances, that I would have been awarded some sort of alimony from him. And I said to my attorney, I said, you know what? I said, I'm glad I am not tied to this man for another 3 to 5 years, waiting for any type of financial support from him.
That's what I was going to say. Like, that's yep. You have no string, there's no attachments to him at all anymore.
Exactly.
Even though you would get money and you're deserving of it, it's probably a good thing that you don't have to see him. There's nothing but his name is on it, nothing.
Exactly. I cut every single, every single tie, string, rope, noose, everything possible from this man, with the help of that judge. And as much as I was mad at her for that first day or so, I am grateful to her for what she did, because it brought out my SASSI full blown. And I ended up working on my house. I ended up going back to work a little bit on the side here and there, making some money, putting things away, working on my house. Because, not only did I suffer from his fist, okay, my house had holes in it like you wouldn't believe. From big holes to fist holes. I mean, there was a lot of work that needed to be done to my house. So I worked, I got better, I got healthier, physically, mentally, not completely, because like I said, we talked on this earlier, that mental health and those internal psychological wounds take a long time to heal. And then, I sold my house. I moved up here to Tennessee, and I have been on a journey to heal myself and help other women realize we don't have to put up with this shit. We can put our foot down. We can. And the other thing, TJ, is we have got to teach our children, boys and girls, to set those boundaries. Stick with those boundaries. Say no when you need to. Do not tolerate abuse. Do not tolerate, if and we have to be a better society. And that kind of is because it was gifted to me in an encounter that I had with Archangel Michael. And not even where you would think that it would be the twice that I died on the table. It was a completely different situation. He basically came to me in another one of those bottom of the barrel moments. This was well after the divorce, but before it was, well after he left, but before the divorce was finalized. Archangel came to me in the situation that I was in, and he basically said to me, everything will be okay. And he gave me my life path and told me, this is what you need. This is why you stayed alive all those times, Christine, because you've got to teach other women. You've got to help other women. You've got to get the word out there. You've got to spread this word, spread your mission, spread your light, and let everybody know that's willing to listen and willing to change and heal. Because I can't force change on anybody. We talked about that earlier too, that the only person we can change is ourselves. Yeah. But to basically say, I'm here. When you're ready, I will spread my love, and it's not even my love. It's God's love, whatever, your higher power, your source, the universe, whatever you want to call it. It's here. It's when you're ready and willing and able to accept it, it's here. And I'm ready to help who needs it.
Yeah, for sure. I really don't remember. Do you have anything to promote, a book or anything, or a website?
Just book a call. That's the easiest thing that I can say. Book a call. It's free. We can spend 30 minutes. We can spend 50 minutes. We can spend 60 minutes. Let's get on a phone call. Let's have a conversation. See where you're at in your journey. Book the call. Let's talk and see where we can go from there.
Is that how anyone, because I want to know if there's any women that are struggling and want to get a hold of you, are going through a similar situation. Is that how they get a hold of you?
Yes. Like I said, a woman's confidence coach. So, and if it's abuse, great. If it's alcoholism, great. If it's, the mental health, great. Let's talk. My website is sassicoach.com. Facebook, I'm on there as the Sassy Coach. You can book from there. You can book on my website, the call, get on my calendar. If something doesn't work, then let me know. I always make time, always try and make time for anybody that is reaching out, because we know, TJ, reaching out is such a hard first step. Taking that first step is so hard. Sure. And it takes a lot within that person, male or female, to say, I need help. And that was hard. That it's hard to say, I need help. Yeah. So reach out, book that call. It's a free call. It doesn't cost you anything. We talk, we figure out where you want to go, where you want to be, and we take it from there.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow. Yeah. I'm glad you for coming on. Obviously, I'm very proud of everything you've overcome, because
thank you.
Definitely
thank you, TJ.
Had to go through any of that, but obviously it made you who you are, and
yes,
it sucks that it had to take that much, but you're here. And
well, I should have listened to my intuition a lot sooner, huh?
Yeah, well, now you know not to ever go against it.
Exactly. I actually do that. I take a few moments and I kind of meditate. I close my eyes. I go out in nature and I go, all right, guys, what do I need to know? Talk to me. And they do. My higher power, my angels, they talk to me. They let me know. I mean, it could be voices that I hear, and I'm not mentally crazy. They do talk to me. Archangel Michael, when a few weeks ago, it was a few nights later that he came to me again and said, Christine, what did I tell you all those years ago? And I said, yeah, I know, but what did and his voice was different. And he said, what did I tell you? I know everything will be okay, but, and he said, there is no but. What did I tell you? With so much love that came from him. And I said, you said everything will be okay. He said, okay then. Everything will be okay. Do what you need to do. I'm right here with you, girl. I went, okay. And the next morning I got up and here I am,
Yeah. No.
Call me crazy, get the white jacket, go for it. I don't care. I'm divinely protected. I know my mission. I know that I'm here to help whoever needs it. So bring it on, TJ, right? Bring it on.
Bring it on, yes. And I will definitely be here with you. So I hope,
Thank
support each other and anything you ever need. And,
yes.
Like when you reached out the other day or a couple weeks ago when we were supposed to do the podcast and, I told you need anything, but I know you kind of wanted to be alone. So I just let you be and, but yeah, anytime you need something, please.
You are good. You are a good soul, TJ. You really are. You are a blessing. I hope you realize that you are a blessing. I know you go through your own shit, but for a reason.
I try and I appreciate it. Yeah,
I know you do. I know you do.
We're all hanging on to something, but
exactly.
But yeah.
You same way. Reach out if you need to chat. I'm always here for you. I won't charge you, honey.
Yes, please don't. I can afford it, but I don't want to.
Well, you did me a favor by doing this, so I owe you.
Nah, you're good. You don't owe me anything. But yes, thank you for being a friend. Thank you for coming on, and we'll definitely talk very soon.
Absolutely. I got some things in the works that I want you part of. So
okay, I appreciate that. Anything you need, I'm there.
Thank you. Same here.
Alrighty. Well, like I said, we'll talk soon, and just take care of yourself. Stay sober.
Thank you, T. Absolutely, honey. All right, you keep your chin up.
You too.
I love you.
Love you too.
Thank you. Reach out anytime, okay?
Yep. Same here.
All right. Bye, sweetie.
Bye. All right, guys. Yeah, that was an emotional roller coaster, if you will. It's yeah, she's been through a lot. I wanted to tell it, or have her tell it, I should say. And yeah, man, so much in there to unpack. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know, like I said, some of it, she before we got on the air, she asked if, was it okay that she cursed? And I'm like, yeah. Like, when she's telling that story of how she's telling telling him to kill her, and if she's repeating verbatim what he's saying to her and what she's saying to him. Like, that's a part of the story. Like, if you don't like certain words, then whatever, don't listen. But I'm not saying anyone complains about that, but I mean, some people think oh, you shouldn't use profanity so much in this, in this instance and that. And I don't care. Like, that is what happened. So I want to leave it in its entirety. So, I want to leave it in its purest form and leave it intact. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, I'm sleepy, but I have to go to this place that's about a half hour from here called the Turkey Ranch. It's like a restaurant that's been down in this town for or not, a couple towns over, actually. It's been there since the late 1800s. It's a really cool place. Yeah, good food. And yes, I am getting turkey, if you wondered. They do have other stuff, but I am getting a turkey. Gobble. Before I go, does Bullet want to say anything? Bullet? He's it's literally right in front of his face, and he's just sleeping. And now he's playing dead. Bullet. He's kind of purring. You can kind of hear it, and he was breathing. But he's a big chunker muffins. Aren't you, big guy? Yes, you are. Oh, let me rub that belly. Okay. But we're out of here. Appreciate everyone's support. Thank you again for everything, and we will talk next week. Kind of, sort of. Bye, guys.